Hello and welcome back to Begonia Banter. I am Kristen from @BegoniaSarawak on Instagram. This is episode 5, and this episode will be about how to properly export plants from the United States to another country. And just as a disclaimer, there is currently a rainstorm going on outside here in southern Florida, so if you hear any thunder or rain, just please disregard it, or you can enjoy it like I'm doing. I love the sound of thunderstorms. But if you hear anything in the background, that is what it is. So in my last episode, episode 4, I talked about how to import plants into the United States. So this is the next step, which is how to export plants from the United States. I've done this approximately 10 times in the past 2 years to various countries, some in Asia, some in Europe. Actually, those are the 2 continents. And the process is pretty much the same regardless of whatever country you're sending it to. The only thing that changes is how you prepare the plants for shipping, but we will get into that later. So a brief overview of how to export plants. There's 5 steps. So 1 is you contact the USDA or your state representative equivalent. Number 2 is you prepare the plants for the phytosanitary inspection. Number 3, once you obtain the certificate, you package the plants. And I think I said 5, but there's only 4 steps. So the last step is to ship your plants. So the first couple of steps, the first and second step, I think, are what deter people from exporting plants because it seems intricate, it seems involved, it seems very detail-oriented, and I think it deters a lot of people from actually exporting plants. But I'm here to tell you that once you do it one time, and once you kind of get the lay of the land, it is a very smooth process. It's just this first step that kind of takes a little bit of time, and that is contacting the USDA and filling out the appropriate forms, getting all the information on how to properly prepare your plants for the country that it's going to, payment through the PCIT system, and like I said, the more you do it, the more it just kind of becomes second nature. It's just the first time, doing something new. I think it's maybe you're a little cautious, or you don't want to mess it up. So you're, going over every step in your head and making sure that you do it correctly. But so first and foremost, what you're going to do, you're going to Google or whatever search engine you use. You're going to type in USDA, because that's the United States Department of Agriculture. You're going to put in USDA export from state to country. So as an example, my first time that I exported a plant, I was living in Boston, Massachusetts at the time, and I typed in USDA export from Massachusetts to, what was the country? I think it was Japan. I think Japan was my first export. So that's what it was, from Massachusetts to Japan. And that will bring you up the exact link on the USDA website, because if you just type in usda.com or .org, whatever it is, the website is not the most user-friendly, so I think it's easier just to Google the exact thing that you're trying to do, which is exporting plants, and then it will bring you to the exact web page on the USDA website. And so on there, you just want to double check that it is in fact giving you the proper state information. So just double check at the top of the screen that it says Massachusetts. For in my instance, that's what I did. I think it's halfway down, or it's the last link. It's kind of towards the bottom of the page. It'll say Export Certification Specialist. And it'll give a phone number and email. I don't think it gives an address, or if it does, it's just like a general office address. So I think email is the easiest, so I emailed, but if you're more of a phone person, feel free to call. So I emailed the person and I said exactly that I was shipping a plant from Massachusetts to Japan, and what were the necessary steps that I needed to do in order to ship this plant. He emailed me back and explained that I needed to, if this was a one-time shipment or if I was going to do this regularly, like as a business. At the time, it was a one-time shipment. So I said it's a one-time shipment. He said there's a form, and he attached it, a PDF or however the links are. I don't know what they are called in the emails, but you know what I mean. When somebody sends you a link in the email down at the bottom and you click on it and it opens, I'm pretty sure it's a PDF, but if it's not a PDF, then just, you know what I'm talking about, the equivalent of what it is. So anyway, he said, okay, you have to fill out this one-time form. It's called a PPQ 572 form. And that's the form that gathers the information of the sender, the recipient, what kind of plant it is, where the plant originated from, kind of the logistical stuff, like kind of information that you would fill out for a shipping label. So you fill out that form. Now, I'm not sophisticated, so I printed it out. I filled it in with pen. I took a picture of it on my phone, and then I sent him the picture of the form. But I know for a fact there is an easier way to do that. I'm just not technologically gifted, so that is what I did. So I filled out this form. Like I said, it has, you put your email down, your phone number, the recipient's information, your personal information, plant specifics, and so you fill out this PPQ 572 form, you send it back to them, and he emailed me back and he said, great, this information looks fine. I will import it into the system for you, and you have to, once I'm done importing the information, I will reach out to you, meaning me, to call back and do a payment over the phone. Now, Massachusetts exporting certificates were only $6, and they vary in each state. Massachusetts charges so little because they don't charge for the labor, I think is what they called it. They only charge like the processing fee or something like that. But he did warn me at the time. He's like, if you do move from Massachusetts, there's almost all the states charge a labor fee and not just a processing fee. So it's going to be exponentially more, which it is here in Florida. It's much more than just $6. But anyway, so I called him back. I did the $6 credit card payment over the phone. And what did we do after that? Oh, that's right. He then gave me information for a USDA, another USDA person, a USDA inspector. And you can either do it where you go to their office or they can come to you, and where that could be wherever. If you want to meet these people in your homes, if you want to meet them in a public place, if you want to meet them in a library or in a park or something. But again, Massachusetts didn't charge for the inspector coming to me. It's different here in Florida. So each state is different. That's why I said in the beginning of this step, you have to make sure that even after you type in, USDA exporting, from Massachusetts to Japan, like just double check on the top of the screen, the USDA specialist that you're contacting is actually for your state, because it'll be totally different depending on whatever state you're shipping from. So he gave me the information for a USDA inspector, and I emailed the inspector directly, and I asked what their schedule was and when they would be able to come meet me to inspect the plants. We set a date and time, and that was it, the end of the first step. And I don't know if I'm necessarily rambling. Maybe it sounds a bit like a lot of information, but if you really think about it, it's not. So simplified, I emailed the USDA. They gave me a form to fill out. I paid for the service. They gave me an email for an inspector, and I emailed the inspector and set a date and time. So simplified version, that's what the first step is contacting USDA to get the basic information. Now, depending on the steps that you have to follow for preparing your plants, depend on the receiving country, so where you're shipping the plants to. Now, either the USDA export specialist or the USDA inspector can give you that information. I asked both of them because I wanted to really make sure that I was doing it correctly. And of course, they both said the same thing, but don't get worried if you didn't, ask that question and you're already talking to the inspector or, for proper guidance, because they're there to help you. They're there to export these plants properly. They're doing a service for us. So don't worry. Everyone that I also, as a side note, every single person that I've met in the USDA realm is incredibly kind. They're all very, very nice, very informative. If they don't know the answer, they will ask and get back to you, and actually get back to you in a timely manner. It's not like you have to go hunting these people down, 2 weeks after you ask them a question or anything like that. They're very organized, at least the people that I have dealt with, which is in 2 different states. So I would say that's, pretty good. It's not like it was a one-off or anything like that. But they're very, very nice. They're there to help you. So even if you think it's a silly question, just ask it. Because they've never made me feel silly for asking a question or anything like that. So that is the first step. Now, a caveat to the first step is, let's say this is not your first time exporting plants. You're a veteran at this. So let's go in. Let's say you've done your first time. It was successful. Congratulations. Now you're on to your second time. The PPQ 572 form is no longer a one-time use form because you're doing it more than once. So what the USDA is going to suggest you to do, well, it's not really a suggestion, you have to do it if you want to export plants. You have to make an account through PCIT. You make an account on that website, and it's basically, in how I understand it, now this is just how I understand it, it could be different, it could be more, intricate, but the way that I understand it is your PCIT account is basically like a template for the Phyto certificates that's already filled out for you. So for instance, because you have this account, your information is already pre-filled on the phytosanitary certificate form. really all you have to fill in is the recipient's information and the plant information. So it's kind of facilitates an easier process because it's like autofill. Like as soon as you log into your account, you just do, the missing information, and then because it's electronic, it automatically populates, and you reach out to your USDA inspector via email, phone number, whatever, and say, hey, I uploaded this form to, why is this so hard to say? You email them and you say, I uploaded the form, did you receive it? They'll say yes. Then you say, okay, when can we do the inspection? So it's basically just a faster process. And PCIT stands for, I had to write it down because everybody just calls it PCIT, but it's called the Phytosanitary Certificate Insurance and Tracking System. And overall, it's used to submit applications and request inspections. And it is the exact system that you use for payment of the phytosanitary certificate. So when you're done importing all of the information, it just automatically brings you to the payment page. So it's, again, one less step that you have to do, like in talking to somebody, because it's all electronic, right? So it's kind of just, like a boom, 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 done. Let me schedule my inspection. And filling out the information, or the account in general, is honestly just like any other account that you would create. Like it's just your name, your address, your email. If you have an importing permit, you can put that information in there also. I do, so for my account, it'll have my importing information, even though this is an exporting topic, but you can put in your importing license number. You can put in, actually, to be honest, I don't know what other information you can put in because I just use it for basically the bare minimum. I'm not super advanced or technologically advanced at all. So this is just in my experience what I use the PCIT account for. And the best way to describe it is it's the electronic system for phyto certificates. So it's basically like you're logging into the electronic phytosanitary certificate system, putting in your information and paying for it, the phyto certificate, and then scheduling your inspection. That's really the only caveat. And then after the second time, third, fourth, fifth, up until however many, unlimited amounts, those are all the steps that you do. So you just log into your account, fill out the information, pay, set up the inspection. Very simple. So that is the end of the first step. The rest is pretty easy. So after you set up your inspection, once the day comes, I like to do it in the morning because I like to ship same day as the inspection. Now, that might not work for everyone. Maybe the schedules just don't align. And let's say, for instance, like I ship plants Monday and Tuesday. But let's say the only inspection that we can get is a Wednesday. So in that sense, I'll do the inspection and then ship the plants the next Monday. But I've done that once and I don't like it, and I'll tell you why. Because the preparation process for the plants for some countries is there has to be no soil on the roots. So it's a very vigorous process trying to get the soil off of the roots, and you do cause a little bit of stress to the plant. And if that's done on a Wednesday, then you have to think, okay, the plant is stressed out from that, and then it's not like I can repot the plant in soil because it has to be shipped in the next 5 days. So it's kind of just hanging out in sphagnum moss until Monday when I can ship the plant. And obviously we all know that shipping plants causes them stress too. So it's just, I don't want to use the word unethical because that's not what I mean. I feel bad for the plants. I think it's a lot of stress for these little guys in a short period of time. So now what I'll do is I will only inspect my plants on Monday and Tuesday. And if for whatever reason the schedules don't align, then I'll just push it out until I do get an inspection on a Monday or a Tuesday. So that way I can prepare and ship the plants in one day. And obviously I would let the people know, hey, our schedule, the inspection is on this date. I know it's 10 days away. Is it still okay? Do you want to wait? Do you want a refund? I would feel more comfortable if the inspection was done on a Monday for the stress, just explain it in a reasonable way and why you're pushing out why you're pushing out their plants and shipments. I've never had anyone disagree or say that they, wanted a refund or it was taking too long or anything like that. Most people, I think, are sensible and, they get that you don't want to stress the plants out too much. So like I said, I will do everything all on one day. So I will also schedule the appointment, let's say 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. I like 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Monday morning. So I'll wake up, I'll take the plants. If it's going to a country that doesn't allow soil, which is a lot of the countries that I've shipped to in Asia, they do not allow soil from other countries. So even with a nematode certificate, I was told, even if you have the clearance for what they're looking for, the countries just feel, better not having foreign soil, which I can understand because, like, for instance, Japan is a island, and if they're taking on foreign soil, then there's a potential to be an issue, and it's an island, and I don't know, you know what I mean. So it's reasonable. So let's say I set my inspection for 9 a.m. on Monday. I'll wake up, get the plants. I will gently take warm water, not even lukewarm water, but it's just not freezing cold. You know what I mean? It's just, nice water. And I'll rinse the roots off as best that I can with as little friction as possible on the roots. I'll just get off as much as I can. I'll then put the plants on a moist paper towel. I meet the inspector in my apartment lobby because I don't want random people coming into my home. So I meet them in my apartment lobby. So I'll go downstairs, I'll meet the inspector. That brings us to the actual inspection. But I did just want to go back real quick and mention that not all countries forbid soil. I've just found that personally in the Asian countries that I have shipped to forbid foreign soil. And I've also shipped plants to Canada and to Mexico, and they say, according to their country's regulations, that soil is okay. They think if the plant passed the phyto inspection, they have the appropriate paperwork, that foreign soil is okay. Also, as a side note, I think, this is definitely not a fact, I'm just talking out loud here, that the soil from America is probably not that different than the soil in Canada. So I think it's all one continent, right? So that kind of logically makes sense, and obviously same for Mexico. So that in my head kind of makes sense, maybe they're not as strict importing plants from America and Canada. That kind of makes logical sense. So I did just want to mention that. Preparing the plants for inspection is really only intricate if you grow you grow your plants in soil, and two, the country that you're shipping it to forbids soil. That's the only part that's, I guess, intensive, but in general, preparing the plants is extremely easy. Now I take my time, so it probably realistically is shorter than this, but depending how many plants there are in the shipment, it'll take me 45 minutes to get all the soil off, but I make it a process. Like, I put my music on, I put the music on for the plants, I put birds chirping on YouTube on for the plants to kind of make them feel a little bit better, because I'm sure getting depot from your home and then having water rubbed off, water rubbing on your roots is probably not the best feeling. So I try to set the mood. I don't try to rush. I know, I just take my time. But realistically, you could get 5 plants done, prepared, I'll say, fully prepared in 15 to 17 minutes, realistically. But for me, I like to take my time. So yeah, but preparing the plants is not difficult. The next thing is the actual inspection. Now, I know people are interested in what actually happens during the inspection. I have never been denied a phytosanitary certificate, so I can't speak on that, but I'm assuming if they go into the inspection and let's say they see a pest, they will have you treat it, then they'll come back for another inspection, and basically they just keep coming back until the problem is gone and you can ship the plants because you're actively treating the plant. But they have to visually see that the plant is okay, otherwise they can't give you the document, right? So anyway, I meet them in the lobby, and I have my plants all ready. They're on a moist paper towel in a little plastic Tupperware. That's how I like to travel with my plants from my apartment down to the lobby. And I'll open up the Tupperware. I basically fold. I'll fold them. So I'll take a piece of paper towel, which is a rectangle. I'll open it. I'll put the plants on one side, and then I'll close the top part over the roots. So that way, when I get down to the lobby, all I have to do is lift up the half of the moist paper towel, and all 5 plants are there, roots fresh and whatever. He can look at everything at once. It's less time for the plants to be in low humidity. It's less stress for them. So sometimes they'll pick up the plants and look all around. It depends on how big the plant is. Usually the small plants, you don't need to do that. But if it's a larger plant, they'll physically pick it up. They do wear gloves if anyone cares about that. But they'll physically pick up the plant and, look all in the crevices and all that. And once the inspection is done, I'll cover the plants back up. I'll close the lid of the container that I traveled with them in. And he'll give me the paperwork. And that's it. That's the end of the inspection. They'll sign the paperwork, and then that's the end of the inspection. There was something that I just wanted to say. Anyway, hopefully it'll come back to me. Yes. Depending on whatever country the plants are going to will determine the amount of original phytosanitary certificates he will give you. So, as an example, when I ship a plant from America to Canada, I only get 1 original and 1 copy. The copy is for me and my records. The original will get attached to the outside of the box and then get shipped. So that way, the importing country, the country that you're shipping the package to, will see the phytosanitary certificate on the outside, make sure that the paperwork is in order, and then proceed to ship the plant to the recipient. For Japan, for instance, I will get 2 original copies and 1 copy. Again, the copy is for me, the sender, to have for my records. The 2 original copies, if you're shipping, as an example, like I said, to Japan, 1 copy will go inside the box, 1 copy will go on the outside of the box. Just the same as Canada. Just 1 goes on the inside, 1 goes on the outside. That is something specific that I have found for Japan. I asked my specialist why that is, just out of curiosity, and they said that sometimes in the shipping process, people are not the most gentle. I'm sure we have all experienced that at some point. So if for whatever reason the phytosanitary certificate on the outside of the box gets dislodged and removed from the package, they have no idea what's inside that box. When they open it to inspect it and they see these plants, to them, it's an illegal box because it doesn't have the proper paperwork, and they don't know that you did have the proper paperwork and it just somehow got dislodged from the box. So the shipment will be destroyed. You'll lose money. The recipient will lose money, and it's just kind of a sad process. That's happened to me one time, and they actually kind of were nice about it, and they shipped me back the box, and obviously all of the plants died, except for 1, actually. 1 survived, but they were in a box for like 2.5 weeks. It's like, not a great or fun experience for anybody involved. So I guess that's happened enough times where Japan said, okay, we want 1 on the outside and 1 on the inside. So that way, if the outside one gets dislodged, there's 1 on the inside too. I'm trying to think of any other specificities. I don't think so. I think that's all I can think of as far as the phytosanitary certificate is concerned for the inspection. Okay, so on to the last step, which is to pack and ship your plants. As I mentioned before, I like to do it all on the same day, and I will package the plants appropriately. Now, you have to keep in mind that your packaging process might be different domestically versus internationally, because internationally it is going to go through an inspection, and these inspection people are going through probably thousands of boxes a day. They're potentially not educated on the, I don't want to say value, but they're not educated on, oh, this is a super rare whatever plant, and they just handle it like a plant. So it might not be packaged the exact way as you have packaged it after they do the inspection. So try to keep that in mind. I have severely simplified my packing process because for international shipments, because I have found a few times that the way that I package it, I know for a fact, or as close to a fact as you can get, the plants would have been delivered perfectly fine. But because they were subject to this additional clearance, inspection in their country, they didn't put the items back that I did. I don't want to say that the items were just thrown in the box, but I'm calling a spade, and that's what it looked like. It just looked like they opened the box, inspected the items, and put everything back in the box, not the way that I packaged it. And the plants arrived to the buyer not in good shape. So I have learned to severely simplify my packing process. The way that I do it now is I use sphagnum moss with plastic wrap and takeout containers or just any kind of clear package. I have tried just plastic baggies before. That went okay, but I like what I use is takeout container lids, and I'll just put 2 lids together because those are the clear parts. And what else do I use? Yeah, that's pretty much it. I will make a diluted solution of distilled water and fungicide. The exact fungicide that I use is on my Amazon storefront, which is linked in the description of whatever thing you're listening to this on. And it's under, I think it's either packaging or shipping, or I think it's shipping. The exact fungicide that I use is on there. And so I'll make this diluted fungicide solution, and I have 100% noticed a difference when I use the fungicide versus when I don't use the fungicide. I don't want to say it's necessary, but for me, it's necessary to use. So I'll make this diluted solution. I'll take sphagnum. I'll soak it in that mixture, obviously wring out some of the excess. I'll put the plant in the center, cover it up with a little nice, sphagnum ball, wrap it in plastic wrap, making sure that there's plastic to plastic by the top of the plant where the stem is, because if you don't do that, the moisture from the sphagnum can leak up and actually cause the plant to melt. I've also learned that through experience, so from me to you. So I make sure that there is a space at the top where it's just plastic to plant and there's no sphagnum, at the top of it. I will tape it, and then I will take my 2 opened lids, plastic Tupperware lids. I will tape, not very hard, because if you do it hard, then the moisture will release. But obviously you don't want to make it too loose, so the plant is just bashing around in there. But I tape the plastic wrapped sphagnum ball to one side of the lid. Depending on what the plant is, etc., I'll use polyfill. Sometimes I don't like to use polyfill. And then I'll tape the 2, I'll rubber band the 2 lids together, so that way if the person wants to physically look at the plant, they can. But I have been lucky a few times since I started doing this method that because the plastic tops are clear, the inspectors don't actually open them, because you can see what you're trying to see through the plastic. But in case they do, I just have a rubber band there, so it's easier for them to package it up the way that I had it. Because I noticed people don't like tape. People do not like retaping things. So from me to you, that's also a tip. Try to use rubber bands where you can. So anyway, that is how I package the plants. And then I will tape. I just said don't use a lot of tape, but this is necessary. This is actually necessary because I've done it where I don't use tape and the plants don't turn out well. I'll take each of the plants in their own little plastic Tupperware containers, and I'll tape them to the inside of the box. I cannot tell you how many times I have been physically inside a USPS or a UPS where on every single side of the box I have fragile stickers. I'll have some of them even say like this way up. It just kind of depends which one I order from Amazon, but either way, all of them say fragile. All of them say handled with care, blah, 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 along those lines. I literally cannot tell you how many times the person in front of me has picked up the box, put it the way that it's not supposed to be. 2 times, I can recall, 2 times the person actually picked up the box and like spun it in the air and caught it. Now, granted, it wasn't very high. It's not like they threw it up to the ceiling, but you don't do that with a fragile item. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. I don't want to get upset, but... So anyway, from me to you, sometimes tape is necessary.
I have seen it firsthand. So if I would just say be sensible about it. If, what am I trying to say? I would just say be sensible about it. Use tape where it's necessary. Where it's not necessary, try to use a rubber band or something like that. So that's pretty much it. I'll individually wrap each plant in a thick plastic container. I will tape those containers to the inside of the box, package appropriately with, airbags or bubble wrap or what's that new thing I'm using? It's like bamboo paper. It's like paper, not bamboo. Yeah, I think it is made out of bamboo. But it has like perforations on it, so it's like, honeycomb paper. It's honeycomb paper. I like specific things for specific situations, so I have a lot of wrapping materials. But that is pretty much it. You're on to shipping the plant, bringing it to the postal service, whichever one you choose. And just make sure that you're following the directions every step of the way. For instance, if you're shipping it to Japan, how the one phytosanitary certificate has to go on the inside, one has to go on the outside. Now, those little plastic sleeves that international packages come with, those you get either at UPS or at USPS. They have those plastic sleeves. You don't have to purchase them. You just bring the documentation with you. You have to tell the postal service worker that this document has to go on the outside. They know what to do. They know the size of whatever plastic sleeve that you need. They put the necessary paperwork in the sleeve for you. And that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else specific that I need to say, but I don't think so. Okay, one thing that I knew I was going to forget to mention, so I had to write it down. But okay, one thing I wanted to mention, and I have learned this through my experience in exporting plants. I learned this specifically from exporting plants to Japan specifically. They have, it's not a requirement, but they have an optional thing to do, which is to write on the outside of the box, subject to phytosanitary inspection, what was the other thing? I said I just wrote this down and I forgot what I was going to say. Contains plants. If you write something along the lines, I've used both of those before, but if you write something along the lines of needed inspection, contains plants, the workers will know to send that box to their agricultural department. And it completely cuts, I would almost say in half, the time that the package spends in customs. It 100% facilitates the package where it's supposed to go, because otherwise, I mean, you have to think of the probably thousands of packages that these people are going through. If there's not something blaringly obvious on the package, they're just going to put it in a queue, right? But if they see the package and it says needs to go, contains plants, needs a phytosanitary certificate inspection, they know exactly where that specific package has to go, and they'll send it to their agricultural department for the inspection. And multiple times that I have done this, I don't do it for all. It depends on if it's my first time shipping to that country. It depends on, what else does it depend on? If it's my first time shipping to the country, I don't do it because I like to see the lay of the land kind of a thing. Obviously, that's not set in stone, but just so I know. For future uses, if that's necessary or not. Now, I've done it enough times where I'm kind of like, okay, every package is gonna get that on the outside, because more often than not, it severely cuts the time that the package is in customs, because the people know exactly where it has to go. So I did want to say that. And I thought that was a great idea from Japan to have that as an option to write it on the outside of the box. Like, I don't know. For me, I would just think, oh, it has the necessary paperwork on the outside. Like, of course it's going to go to the agricultural section, which is true, but the workers are not looking at that, right? Like, it's just another institutional document. Like, they're not necessarily reading it. And you have to think of, okay, if they're seeing thousands of institutional documents every single day, importing documents every single day, like they're not gonna, it takes 2 seconds for them to take a package and put it in the queue. Like, they're not gonna take the extra 2 seconds to read what's inside the box. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you have it big and bold on the outside of the box, contains plants or subject to phytosanitary certificate on the outside of the box, I'm telling you, it will cut the customs time in half. It's one of my biggest tips, that and the fungicide. I think that's it. I think that's it for this topic. A brief synopsis. You contact USDA, you tell them what you're trying to do, you get the details of how you're supposed to prepare the plants, you fill out the PPQ, what is it, 572, I think, right? Form, you pay, or you log into your PCIT account, submit the information, pay, and set up the inspection. Then you prepare the plants for the inspection. Then you have the inspection and get the phytosanitary certificate. Then you package the plant appropriately to the country's requirements. For example, soil, no soil. You follow their guidelines, follow the rules. Don't try to be slick, follow the rules. And then after you package the plants, you ship the package and just make sure that the phytosanitary certificate is on the outside of the box like it's supposed to be. And that is pretty much it. So I hope that everyone enjoyed this video. I really love talking about this topic because I'm obviously not an expert. I've only done it like 10 times, but I think it's not all that common here in America. Like, if we lived in Indonesia, like that's very, very common over there because that's the source of a lot of these tropical plants, right? But here, it's not that way. So I haven't really found a lot of people that have consistently exported plants. And I just want people to know that it's truly not that difficult. It's just the first time because it's something new that it might be a little confusing, so to speak. But in general, it's really not. And anyone can do it. Anyone can totally do it. And just reach out to your contacts and from the USDA. Oh, one other thing. I know I'm closing this out, but, well, I don't know if that's really important. But anyway, here in Florida, I do not use USDA. I use the Florida Department of Florida Agricultural Department. It's Florida, the state of Florida's equivalent to the USDA. And I'm pretty sure every state has this. I chose to use them specifically over the USDA because they were cheaper, not for any other reason. So that was that. And the USDA will also suggest state departments also. It's not like they only want your business or anything. Like they're fair. Like they will tell you all of the information and you as the consumer decide what you want to do. So I did just want to also add that in there. Sorry, the ending is a little bit messy. I'm sorry, but I did want to throw that out there, that it doesn't have to be the USDA, although obviously the USDA and the state departments work very closely with each other. So it's all the same information. I just chose the Florida department because it's cheaper. But yeah, anyone can do it. It's fairly simple. If you have any questions, you can just DM me on Instagram. That's at BegoniaSarawak, or send me an email. That's also BegoniaSarawak@gmail.com. And I hope everyone enjoyed this. I hope everyone at least minimally found it interesting. And I hope everyone has a good day. And thank you for listening.